Have you ever looked at your wife and thought, why doesn't she want me anymore? What if I told you the problem isn't her? It's you. And that is the best news you're going to hear today. We're going live.
We'll do it live.
This is the Come On Man podcast. And here's your host, Paul Bauer.
Happy New Year, guys. I hope we have a decent turnout this morning and not everybody's hungover. Man, Nurse Chick and I, we went to bed really early last night, but we get up early. So we're like, we had our cream corn, we rolled up the sidewalks, we turned in with the rest of the old people. You guys like my shorter beard look? Nurse Chick does, if you guys know what I mean. If you guys are new to the channel, my name is Paul Bauer, and I help men level up and get better with women. And the funny thing about leveling up and getting better with women is that when we do, it tends to make us better in all areas of our lives. Now, I found a really fascinating post in the Red Pill archive by a guy named Horns of Apathy, and I wanted to talk about it today. And let me drop a link to that in the live chat. If you guys are watching after the fact, or you're listening on StreamYard or not StreamYard, if you're listening on Spotify or iTunes or whatever, you guys don't get to see the stuff I drop in the live chat. So you guys need to occasionally head on over for a live. We go live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern time on YouTube. Anyway, so Horns of Apathy, he did a great job of breaking down the original concept that they had of Dread Game and why it wasn't very effective. Now, if you guys have ever read Ryan's book on Dread, Ryan really goes into depth on this stuff. I highly recommend you guys get Ryan's book on Dread, because if you really want to fundamentally understand it, Ryan's book is definitely the book. My new book that's dropping on Friday goes into it as well, although I don't really talk about it as Dread, but it's a lot of the same types of ideas. But Ryan talks about other things in his book that mine doesn't talk about. He addresses cheating, right? How to cheat efficiently. I don't really talk about that, but you know what? I'm not here to tell you what to do and what not to do. Red Pill isn't about morals, right? It's about doing what's best for you. If you think that's best for you, okay. It's interesting though. Like, one of the things that Ryan talks about is, like, one of the biggest things as far as cheating goes is if you do it in a way that doesn't embarrass your wife, you're probably going to be all right. You know what I mean? The biggest things guys do is they want to cheat on their wife for some kind of revenge porn fantasy. Yeah, I said the prawn word before the 8-minute mark. We're going to get demonetized. Anyway, they'll do that, and then they'll blow up their marriage, and whatever it is that they're trying to do will be forever ruined by what they're trying to do. It's like there's an effective strategy here, and there's a not very effective strategy. Anyway, get Ryan's book for that. But what I liked about Horns of Apathy's post is it's very practical, right? Like, I'd venture to say, a lot of you guys aren't cheaters, not that I'm judging anybody, but like, a lot of you guys probably aren't, right? You'd probably much rather end things cleanly. That's more my thing. I don't need to go out and cheat on Nurse Chick. Like, if I'm not getting my needs met with Nurse Chick, it's just, this just isn't working out. I'm just going to move on. You know what I mean? But to each their own, right? You got to do what's best for you. So anyway, they had an original concept of Dread, which we'll get into. And then what we have now, which is really what Ryan's book breaks down, is much more effective. And we're going to talk about that today. Before we get into all of that, do be sure to, where is this at? Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit those notifications. Like I said before, I do have new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday without fail. Doesn't matter if it's a holiday or not. Sometimes on holidays, I pre-record episodes, but today's live. We're live today. And because we're live, sound off in the live chat, okay? I see about 15 of you guys tuning in here so far. Hopefully more people roll in as the live stream moves on. If you guys are watching on Facebook or X, come on over to YouTube and join us in the chat there, because that way you can support the show by sending a super chat. And I know y'all have the money. Y'all are sending butter eaters $500 super chat. So I'm not asking for that, but couple of ducats or two definitely helps support the show. So one of the things that Horns of Apathy points out in his archive post is a quote from Jack 10 of Hearts. And Jack 10 of Hearts, also Ryan quotes both of these guys in Dread. So these guys are some OG guys from the Red Pill archive. But he quotes from Jack 10 of Hearts that in order for Dread to work, you have to like your wife. You have to like her at some level, right? So he says, so Jack says, you have to like your wife, not love. If I asked you if you loved your wife, you'd probably reflexively say yes. That's not a meaningful question. The more important question is, do you like her? Dread will be effective if your answer is, she's a great person, she's caring and generous with me and my family, she appreciates and respects me. I just wish I knew why she never wants to, we can't say it's not the 8-minute mark, she doesn't want to bang anymore. Or why she's so unenthusiastic when she does. Dread will not be effective if your answer is, well, I think I like her, although she's kind of a bish and she can act really selfish sometimes. I don't like when she's acting that way, which I guess is like half the time. Ugh, damn it. She really is damn annoying sometimes. Dread will not be effective in the second scenario because you'll probably like watching the hamster maze too much, right? Because one of the things that Dread does is it creates a lot of anxiety. It creates a lot of anxiety in your wife, and it gets her thinking like, oh, I better, like something's going on here. I've got competition again. I better step up my game, right? And so if you enjoy that, if you enjoy her being in sort of mental misery, that's not healthy. That's not good, right? It makes sense, right? A lot of guys who are at the stage of needing to run Dread to fix a bedroom, there's a lot of resentment built up, isn't there? So they end up having this, this idea of making her squirm by creating that anxiety. The goal here is to fix a dead bedroom by fixing a marriage damaged by complacency, really. Complacency and neglect, right? You're not going to fix your marriage if you want to screw your wife over, okay? You might as well just get divorced, you might as well, right? If your goal is to inflict pain on her as a form of retaliation or something like that, you might as well just get divorced, man. Like you're doing it for the wrong reasons, right? So Horns recommends reevaluating this type of question. Do I like her? Somewhere between the transition between stage 1 and stage 2, which we're going to get to. And then we're also going to talk about this a little bit, but at stage 0, you don't have enough mental frame and are still too butthurt to make a rational judgment on answering that question. You know what I mean? Like if you're just starting out, like if you're in a dead bedroom situation right now and you're here, you found this video, you're probably not in the right mental frame, the right state of mind to answer the question of, do I like her or not? Right. So proceed along the lines and then reevaluate later as you go on. So that being said, let's get into the key ideas of this article. So Dread as a sexual strategy, right? So what is Dread? Well, it's basically a tool to elicit sexual response by subtly introducing competition anxiety. Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing about Dread. If you make it a part of who you are, which is the goal, and we'll get into that more. If you make Dread game a part of who you are, it's passive. You're not even trying to do it. It's not an active strategy. Like you are just a naturally attractive person and your wife sees it, right? She sees that you're an attractive person that other people like, and that builds competition anxiety. That competition anxiety builds attraction, right? And so if you can, like if you're just starting out in a relationship, you want to be always being this kind of guy. You want to be doing Dread all the time. without even trying. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're just an attractive guy. So that's the goal. Make it a part of who you are. But most of you guys, the reason why you're here is because you stopped doing what you needed to do in the relationship. You stopped being the attractive guy. You thought you hit a finish line. And then now you're here. Now you're trying to reverse that process. Okay. That's okay too. It's just now you've got a lot of work to do. Right. So the key point, it works short term and often fails when used with covert contracts. And that's why the original concept of dread wasn't very effective, because basically what it was a lot of surface level tactics and tricks that you're basically doing in order to try to fix your girl. And that's a covert contract. Like, if you're doing any of this in order to get something from her specifically, and a lot of guys are, right? They're like, how do I get my wife to want to bang again? Well, you implement dread. Well, if you do it solely to get her to want to bang again, and then she doesn't, right? Now that builds up more resentment, right? And that's ends up being a covert contract, right? Doing something, expecting something in return. And that's, you got to let go of that. You got to let go of all expectation. You got to let go of attachment to outcome, and you got to just worry about you doing what you need to do to improve yourself, be the most attractive guy you possibly can be. Right? She either gets on board or she doesn't, right? So you got to let go of that. It can't be a covert contract. So for dread to be effective is what the guys in the Married Red Pill figured out after, years and years of swapping notes about what they originally had, which was like the 12 levels of game. They realized, okay, that none of that works. What we have to do is really focus on genuine self-improvement. Right. Genuine self-improvement, not manipulation. You hear me? Okay. Cool. So that's dread as a sexual strategy. The transition from external to internal work, right? So the old approach, this is what like Horns talks about, is focused on external behaviors, right? He looked at like leveling up like a video game, right? You like think of Mario Brothers, right? You're on world 1-1, and then you go to world 1-2, and then you go to world 1-3, and now you're on level 2, right? After you beat Bowser, right? So it was originally like a 12-step model, basically paint by numbers with covert contracts mixed in, right? Lots of surface level stuff, but not making it a part of who you are. If you ever watch, or if you ever read the book The Game by Neil Strauss, great book. One of my biggest takeaways from that, a lot of people get that book and their takeaways are like all the pickup artistry tools. There's a deeper story going on under there. Everything the pickup artists were doing were surface level manipulation type tactics to get women into bed quickly, right? But it wasn't a part of who they were. It was it was like basically parlor tricks, right? But once they got a girl that they were interested in, they couldn't keep these chicks around because they fundamentally were messed up guys. They weren't attractive guys that women really wanted to be around for the long term. You know what I mean? So you can't do that. You can't do the surface level pickup artist bullshit if you want a healthy, meaningful, long-term relationship, which is what dread is about. If you are just casually dating, right? If you are a guy that's just going to spin plates forever, you don't need dread. Okay. It's built in automatically. If you're just dating multiple women, right? That stuff's built in. A lot of guys are out in the dating circuit are like, am I implementing enough dread here? Forget it. Like, you don't need to do it. It's assumed, right? But when you're in a long-term relationship, the assumption is that you guys are supposed to be there for each other and there shouldn't be anyone else around. The thing is that that's a myth, right? There are other people around. There's other people trying to attract your wife all the time. Potentially, if you're not a schlub, there's other women trying to attract you all the time. Okay. Now, as soon as your wife doesn't think that any other woman's coming to get you and snatch you from her, she gets complacent. She's like, I don't have to try anymore, right? And she starts dressing like a hobo from Walmart, right? And wearing the messy bun and the ugly glasses all the time. It's like, no, lady, like your husband's an attractive guy. And, if you don't step up your game and keep your game on point, like the way it was at the beginning of your relationship, he might step out and cheat on you, especially if you're not putting out anymore. Right. So it's all about reintroducing that competition anxiety and sort of keeping that sort of in the back of her mind a little bit. So the new approach starts with internal self-improvement to build authentic attraction, right? This is where frame comes in, right? Frame is paramount. Having a good mental frame is like the number one thing that you need to have. And a lot of this comes down to good, solid emotional control, being able to handle fitness tests or shit tests properly, right? All that kind of stuff is going to start changing the dynamic of your relationship. I was saying this the other day because I just had a coaching call on Monday. So I was saying this on Monday. I just had a coaching call on Monday, and it was with a relatively new client, and it was after week 2. Well, week 2 is so important because I teach guys like how to handle shit tests, not take their wife so seriously. An amazing thing happens when you do that, right? When you get back to that and understand how to do that, you bring yourself back to the beginning of the betaization process. It's like a reset button. And then your wife starts seeing this and she goes, wait a second, he's acting different, but I like it. I don't know what's going on, but I like it. Right. And now the hamster starts running the maze. You understand? And a lot of that's internal, right? Realizing, being in control of your own emotions, realizing that you're in control of yourself. She doesn't dictate how you feel. You know what I mean? So it starts with internal improvement. It's about building new habits that help you level up in all areas of your life, right? Muscles, money, game, and frame, right? If you work on being better in business and getting your money right and working on having a budget, getting yourself out of debt and all that kind of stuff, like that's just going to help you better in life, right? But a fantastic thing that happens when you take back control of the purse, right? Because a lot of guys hand off everything to their wife and they're like, okay, you pay the bills, and then she starts buying all the groceries and she starts managing the money and you just bring it in. As soon as you take back control of that and go, no, I'm going to take that off your plate, I'm going to start managing the budget. And then you start working to get out of debt and all that kind of stuff and work on like making more money and all that. Good book for that. Everything I Wish I Knew When I Was 18, the Everyone Can Be Rich chapter will get you out of debt. It'll get you out of debt relatively quickly, right? If you do that, it's amazing. A lot of people's fights in a relationship come down to finances and money. But if you're in control of it and you have a solid plan, your wife can relax a little bit into her feminine and let you just handle stuff. And it's like, here, honey, you have an allowance now. And, if she has her own money, fine. She has her own account, whatever, but you manage the bills and all that kind of stuff. And you make sure that she's chipping into whatever she needs to chip into and everything's taken care of. As long as everything's taken care of, she's going to be able to relax to her feminine a little bit. Ryan has a great story in Dread about a guy who was in his 60s, and the guy in his 60s took back control of his finances like years before. And the way he did it was fascinating. He basically he opened a P.O. box and started like forwarding all the bills and all the mail to that post office box. He did that by forwarding all of his home mail, right? So even when his wife tried to open up new credit lines, the mail would get forwarded to his P.O. box and she would never see the bill. And so he would see it and immediately cancel it. He'd be like, no, he would said like a cancellation notice or whatever. And he just basically was like, this isn't happening. And then he's like, I'm approving all charges, all purchases. So that means that I need to see receipts, and anything that you buy that was not pre-approved is getting taken back. And he had a zero tolerance policy. Fascinating story. But the guy ended up just completely taking everything back. But the thing is that over time, his wife fell in line, and actually their relationship got better when he took back control of the money. Right. So anyway, it's about leveling up all areas of your life, right? Making things a habit means you do it without thinking about it. So everything you want to do in dread, you want to make a part of who you are. It's got to be a habit. You got to be able to do it without thinking about it. You got to have that muscle memory with it. One of the things that Ryan talks about, and I mentioned it a little bit on Monday, he talks about when your wife starts doing the hysterical bonding thing. A lot of guys think that they've reached the finish line again, and then they stop implementing dread, and then that lasts for like 2 or 3 months, and then she goes back to being however she was before, and then they find themselves like starting from scratch, right? The work never stops, right? The map never stops. Dread never stops. And then you stay, and then the goal is to make this a habit, make it a part of who you are, so that you actually stay an attractive man for the long term, right? It can't just be something you do in order to think that you reached a mythological finish line that doesn't exist. There's no finish line, right? So you've got to do this and keep doing it and make it a part of your daily habits, right? So what's the challenge there? Well, the challenge is internal work. It's harder. It's harder to make this stuff a habit. It's harder to make it a part of who you are than it is to just do surface level tips and tricks. That's why a lot of guys don't want to do the work, right? A lot of guys won't put in this kind of effort. They will buy the book and they'll put it on their shelf and think that they've done something. They won't even read it. Like, no, it does require work, and it requires effort, and that's why it's harder, but it's worth it, right? All right, we've got a bunch of guys in the chat today. We've got CW's in the house. Morning, gents, and Nurse Chick. Happy New Year. Nurse Chick is in the house. She gets this automatically. I'm
so naughty.
Yes.
I'm gonna come.
Oh, I did. Happy New Year, guys. We've got John Egan's in the house. He says, Happy New Year, y'all. We've got Phil Bradley in the house. He says, hoorah. Hey, Mish is in the house. What's up, man? What's going on, brother? Good to see you. Hey, I know you're anonymous. So I saw your gym pics for the year. You're looking fucking svelte, dude. Looking good. And then AJ's in the house. He says, Happy New Year. All right. And then CW said a $10 super chat. Happy New Year, everyone. Hope 2024 was a good year for you. I'm looking forward to accomplishing new goals this year. Thank you, Paul, for your continuing effort as a leader in the space and beer club. Yeah, sure, man. It's a labor of love. Because you said, so CW is a beer club brother, so I'm going to bump him up to the $20 super chat.
Super chat will see you there. Shake it, dance without a care. Sending love from everywhere. Groovy beats we all can share. Your support is so divine. Moving closer to the line. Thank you, you're the best. Party on, we never rest.
How'd you like to bite onto that? Develop lockjaw and be dragged to death. Speaking of that saying, I got that. It's a modification of one that I from Lone Wolf McQuade with Chuck Norris. I made Nurse Chick watch that last night. I made her watch that documentary last night. Fucking awesome. Love that movie. There's only like a couple of Chuck Norris movies that I'm going to make Nurse Chick watch, and we've already watched 2 of them. We watched Invasion USA, and we've watched Lone Wolf McQuade now. Johnny Trejo says, Happy New Year, Paul and Nurse Chick. Yeah, Happy New Year, brother. All right. So the next concept here is the you first philosophy, right? Rollo talks about this a lot. You got to be your own mental point of origin. You got to do what's best for you. You got to figure out what you want, right? So the core idea here is that personal growth and self-improvement must come before expecting changes in your wife, right? It's about fixing you. It's not about fixing her. That's why at the beginning I said, the reason why your wife's not banging you is because of you, right? She doesn't like you very much. Well, guess what? You have ultimate control over you and how you show up in this world and what you can do. You don't have control over what she's doing, right? So that's great news because you get to fix you, right? So focus on building your frame, your fitness, and life outside of the relationship, right? One of the things that I'm having my clients do is be more social again. Like go out and talk to everybody, talk to everyone you meet. It's not about doing pickup artistry stuff. It's just about being social and striking up conversations with people and building a new social circle. You know, one of my guys, he used to be a part of a Bible study group, right? Back pre-COVID. Like a lot of the stuff is funny. Like all the stuff like COVID ruined relationships, but it's because people sort of got broken out of their patterns and then they had to be forced to be around their wives all the time. And then their wives are like, I can't stand this guy. He doesn't do anything anymore, you know? So I told him, well, man, you know, are you still in contact with those guys from the Bible study? I was like, let's get, you know, reach out to them and say, let's get the band back together. Let's start getting together and hanging out with other dudes and stuff like that. You know, it's good for men to not have their wife be the sole, you know, arbiter of their, you know, of their time and attention. Just like, hey, honey, I'm going to go out with the boys, you know, and if your wife complains about that, hey, you get to go out all the time and you leave me with the kids. Well, encourage your wife to go out with the girls, but make sure that when she goes out with the girls, that she hangs out with other married girls, ones that are preferably in happy marriages. Like, don't let her hang out with like her divorced friends. That's not a good idea. Let's see here. So you're working on your frame, fitness, and life outside the relationship. And a lot of this too is self-leadership, right? Being able to lead your own life effectively. You've got to learn how to do that before you can effectively lead the relationship. There's certain things that you need to start doing. Week one of the things I have guys do is leading in small areas every day of their life. And it can be as simple, and I talked about this on Monday, it's as simple as you see the trash can is full, you just take it out. Like that's, you see something needs to be done, you take care of it, right? That's a form of leadership. You're sort of taking ownership of the situation, just doing it. You're not waiting for your wife to do it. You're like, this needs to be done. I'm going to do it. Right? You lead yourself. And then next concept here was pretty interesting. It's beta dread versus good dread, right? And so Horns refers to as stage 0. I don't know why he made a stage 0. I guess it's kind of like, why does why does the married red pill have a rule 0? Like, you know what I mean? It's like the rule before all of the rules. Well, stage 0, I guess, is where most guys are at when they come to the space looking for, why won't my wife fuck me, right? So that's where you're at. You're at stage 0, which he calls beta dread, which basically is to say no dread at all. So when a guys come to the space, they're really focused on being a good provider. They're a good dad, you know, they bring home the bacon and, you know, all that kind of stuff, but they're not attractive guys, right? They have a lot of unattractive behavior. They have no passion anymore, right? Like, think about it when you were like, when she first met you, a lot of guys have a lot of passion. They have ambition. They have career goals. They're like, oh, I'm going to be the CEO of a company someday, right? And then they fall into life and then they're like, yeah, I'm good. I've been in the same position for the last 15 years. I'm okay. I'm getting a steady paycheck. Like, I don't need to move up in the world or anything like that. So you have no more passion. Stop doing like hobbies and whatever, and you just watch TV all the time. You're getting starfish sex from your wife. If you get any sex at all, it's boring as hell. You're full of denials. You're unattractive, right? You look in the mirror, you wouldn't fuck you. Like, you look in the mirror and you're like, I wouldn't fuck me, right? But, you know, you get banged by your wife occasionally because you are still beta bucks to her in some capacity. And so she sort of, you know, dangles a carrot every now and then just to keep you on the hook. But she didn't want to fuck you. You know what I mean? Or even worse, you're in a full-on dead bedroom and she hasn't banged you in years, right? Months or years. That's where you're at. You're at beta dread stage 0. One of the things one of the things that we do in day one with my clients too is we talk about alpha and beta traits, right? Alpha and beta traits. So like alpha traits are what makes a woman want to bang you, right? And a lot of people don't like the words alpha and beta. Whatever, fuck off. Right? It's a good descriptive word of traits that you have that makes her want to fuck, and then traits you have that makes her feel comfortable around you but not want to fuck, right? Okay, that's a lot of words to say, alpha and beta. It's just easier to say alpha and beta. So if you don't like it, fuck off. Take your wolf study, shove it up the old toot hole. Anyway, so we talk about that, right? And I had one of my clients, I was like, so what are some alpha traits that you would say that you embody? And the first thing he says, well, he goes, shit, I make a lot of money. And I'm like, that's a beta trait. Beta bucks. That's the beta side of hypergamy, being able to bring home a lot of resources, right? That's a beta trait, man. It's not an alpha trait. A lot of guys focus in the space ends up being, you got to have a lot of money. You got to have a Bugatti, you got to have a fucking McLaren or whatever. It's like, yeah, that's all nice. It's good stuff to have. And women do like that sort of thing, but that's not what makes you sexually attractive, right? There's other things that make you sexually attractive, right? Your muscles, your game, and your frame make you sexually attractive, right? So that's 70. So if out of the core 4, you've got to have, level up on 3 levels, 75%. of the work is becoming, more attractive that way. That's going to get you more sex, right? So then he talks about good dread, stage 1. Good dread, stage 1, right? So this is where you're recognizing and passing shit tests. That's why I say week 2, if you start working with me and get into my program, week 2 is why you start seeing changes almost immediately. It's because I show you how to handle shit tests. That brings you back to the beginning of the betatization process, right? You've got your map identified, and map is really, you're just working on your muscles, money, game, and frame. You really typically want to start with like sort of the easiest things first, right? A lot of the times that's going to the gym and losing weight. You know what I mean? Especially if you're overweight, like go to the gym, losing weight is like the first thing you need to start working on, right? The next one here is you start going to the gym 3 to 4 times a week, start lifting heavy. Now that's a big concept in the red pill space, is going to the gym and lifting heavy. I don't think you necessarily need to do that. My big thing is you just need to not be fat. Okay. You don't have to lift heavy. I've got a basic diet and fitness course right here. If you go to fit.comeonmanpod.com, it's a basic diet and fitness course. It'll get you in shape and make you more physically attractive. You don't have to lift heavy at all. It's just calisthenics. There's only 4 exercises you really need, and you get your diet on point, and then you can do it that way too. Okay. But married red pill, they like to lift heavy. You can do that too. Like, it really just depends on what do you want, right? But if you only do cardio, right? If you're only running, if you're only working out on the exercise bike, you might lose weight, but you're going to be skinny fat. It's still not that physically appealing, right? You want a little bit of muscle definition. So at least do the calisthenics on top of that. Okay. One of the things that you're probably doing in dread stage 1 is you've read the first 3 books in the sidebar, which I believe are No More Mr. Nice Guy, When I Say No, I Feel Guilty, and is it The Rational Male? I can't remember. Let's see here. I can't remember. Let's see here. We want do we have the sidebar here? I don't know. Let's see. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. Let me just go to reddit.com. There we go. First 3 books of the sidebar are, oh no, I was wrong. No More Mr. Nice Guy, Married Man Sex Life Primer, and Married Man Sex Life Primer is the 3rd one that I'm missing here. This one, Married Man Sex Life Primer. I'll tell you what, guys, my new book that's coming out Friday, I have to finish editing the audiobook. I've got 3 more chapters to edit. They're all recorded, but I've only got 3 more chapters to edit. I incorporate everything. No More Mr. Nice Guy stuff. When I Say No, I Feel Guilty stuff, and Married Man Sex Life Primer, all in this book. Concepts from them, all in this book. It's going to be available on audio, which is awesome because Married Man Sex Life Primer is not available on audio. So this is going to give you an alternative to listen to. If you know, because I recommend like reading a book 10 to 15 times. If you really want to get that information, you'll be able to listen to my audiobook 10 to 15 times, get all the good stuff from those 3 books in one book. But you're going to read those books on the sidebar. You've probably, you know, he says you've begun to build a life apart from your wife, right? You start going out, you know, bowling nights or whatever. You start going, like, you know, my one client, he goes back to Bible study or whatever. You start having a life outside of your wife, right? You're busy. You don't have time for a sexually disinterested wife. You know, if she's not putting out, okay, cool. Well, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to go hang out with the boys, right? I'm going to go work on my hobbies. I'm going to, whatever. I'm not going to spend time around here because I'm not appreciated, right? You're going to dress well. You're going to groom a little bit better. Your hygiene's going to be good. You're going to trim the old beard for the new year, right? You're going to shut the fuck up regularly, but still fail sometimes. And that's okay. It's okay. Don't beat yourself up. Now, what they talk about as far as shut the fuck up is a lot of guys don't have, when they're first starting out, they don't have the mental frame and the communication skills to be able to effectively communicate from a position of leadership, right? And it's one of the things that I teach guys how to do in my coaching program. I teach Paul Benjamin's Luca model as far as communication goes, and that's a way of not deering, but communicating from a position of leadership that's really effective, and your wife respects it, right? Until you get to that point, if you don't have those skills, it's better to not say anything at all. Shut the fuck up, right? So that's what they talk about. You're shutting the fuck up regularly instead of getting into dumbass arguments, but you're still going to fail, okay? Now, a lot of guys will fail in this stage. A lot of guys will fail in this stage because this is the stage where she starts having hysterical bonding sex with you, right? You think you've reached a finish line. Right? She's fucking you out of survival now, not out of desire. Right? She's like, oh shit, this guy's leveling up. He's losing weight. He's getting fit. He's dressing better. The reason why women start their hamster wheel starts going when you start doing that kind of stuff is because that's what women do. Right? Women start losing weight when they're ready to start lining up orbiters and they're ready to move on from the relationship, right? They start getting attractive again. So when you start doing that, they're like, oh, wait a second. Wait a second. Is he cheating on me? Like, you're going to get questions like that. Are you cheating on me? Is there another woman in the picture? Like, all this kind of stuff, right? One of my clients, he's getting that. He's getting that from his wife. And I was like, good, fucking good, bro. Because that means that her hamster's running the maze, right? So she's going to start really, like, if she's doesn't want to lose you, she's going to want to start fucking you more. Okay. But it's more out of the hysterical bonding thing than genuine desire. It's more out of survival. Right. But the problem is that when she starts having sex with you regularly, guys think that they've reached the finish line. They're like, yeah, oh, well, I already did it. Right. Oh man, this dread stuff was easy. I only had to do it for 3 months and now she's fucking me again. That's crazy. Right. So they get complacent. They stop doing the work. They stop doing the stuff that they need to do to keep improving, to make it a habit, to make it a part of who they are. And then they fall back into complacency. And then, she stops doing it like 3 months later. They're like, fuck, what happened? Now they got to start from the beginning again. Right? This is why you have to make this stuff a habit, a part of who you are. It's about fixing your unattractive habits, making more attractive habits. Right? It's not about getting her to change. It's about becoming more fuckable, as Ryan says in Dread. That's when you start moving on to stage 2, right? Now that she's like hysterically fucking you again, and you just keep working on the stuff and you keep reading the books on repeat, you keep, going to the gym regularly, you keep doing all the stuff that's making you more of an attractive guy. Your wife will start fucking you for all the same reasons in stage 1, but also, this is how you're going to know that you're in stage 2, right? You're capable of talking to cute, pretty, and sometimes beautiful women in public, often around your wife. You're not afraid to do that anymore. You don't give a shit, right? And then when your wife says, hey, what, that girl was flirting with you, you'd be like, well, yeah, why wouldn't she? Right? Like you're not dissuading women from flirting with you in public. You're not overtly, asking for women's number and stuff at public. You're just being a funny, charming guy that's social and you talk to everybody. But when your wife notices this sort of thing, she's going to really notice that women are giving you more attention than usual. And that's actually going to boost her attraction, because women have this, they like guys that other women like. We call it pre-selection, right? So you're going to be capable of talking to cute, pretty, and beautiful women in public. You've learned to be more social, just talk to people in general, and your wife's seeing all the positive responses from other people, which builds attraction through pre-selection and social proof, right? She's going to be like, man, where the fuck, when the fuck did my husband become this like social butterfly, like guy that everyone likes? I like him more now. You'll learn game and apply it on your wife, which will make you more fun, right? She's going to want to be around you more because you're going to be more of a fun guy, and you're not going to be boring anymore. That's one of the biggest things we learn from the Book of Puck series, right? You could be anything to a woman, but you can't be boring. And that's a number one reason why most marriages are in the toilet, is because you end up being a boring guy, right? At the beginning of the relationship, you're fun and happening and you're going around doing fun shit together. And now you're in a routine, and, you know, you might go out on Tuesday night to Applebee's and in a movie, but it's boring as fuck, right? And what's going to happen is you're going to show through congruent behavior that you're a sexual masculine man, right? And that you're going to exude more sexuality. Women like guys that fuck, right? So you're going to be that guy. You're going to start being that guy again. And then he says, good dread stage 3, which is mastery of self and relationships. So in addition to being a man who fucks, you stop seeking validation in sex. Like, you don't need sex to be validated. It's not that big of a deal. You've been going to the gym for 6 to 12 months minimum and look like you're in the best shape of your life. The used to be alpha 20-year-old version of yourself included. That I'm in better shape now than I was in my 20s, which is sad to say. I'm bigger now, but I've got more muscle mass. But like I run 4 or 5 miles every day. I could never do that when I was in my 20s. And that's because I used to smoke and all that kind of shit when I was in my 20s. I don't do any of that kind of stuff now. There's an understanding that you're capable and willing, if necessary, to fuck other women if your needs aren't met, because you are a man who fucks. Now Ryan talks about it in Dread. You can start fucking other women, right? Like during this process, if that's what you think you need to do. Okay. So I'm not here to tell you not to do that. All right. But you typically don't have to, because all your wife has to do is think that you might be, right? Or think that you're at least capable of it. Right. And she'll think that you're capable of it when she sees how women respond to you in public. Right. You're attractive. You're not being unattractive. That's the concept of, you're attractive means like your how you dress, your fitness level, like all that kind of stuff. You're wearing cologne again. You got a nice trim beard. And then, if you're balding, you shave that shit, right? But you're not being unattractive. That's your demeanor, your behavior. You're not being a boring person anymore. You're being flirty. You've got game. You've got good frame. You're not letting her shit test bother you and stuff anymore. That not being unattractive is your behavior, right? You've read the entire sidebar a couple of times and have read and listened equally or listened equally to many other books that you discovered on your own. Books like, a good book would be Psychology Paradigm, right? Especially if you're trying to make this a habit of who you are. Psychology Paradigm's the book for you. Paul, you got a lot of books now. Not really. That son of a bitch, Ryan Stone, has 5 fucking books out now, I think. Or 4 books. He's going to release a 5th book this year. That son of a bitch. I love that man, Ryan. That's why if I didn't like Ryan, I wouldn't talk about his books. I would be like, screw that guy. I still say screw that guy, and then I promote his books. So Oh man, that's because I learned a lot from Ryan. In fact, if you guys get my new book in the acknowledgement section, I thank Ryan for teaching me like what red pill really is. You know. Anyway, where are we at here? You have a level of do not give a fuck that is palpable. You provide comfort when necessary without judgment. See, that's why you still gotta, if you're gonna be in a long-term relationship, you gotta know when to sprinkle a little beta on it. That's what when we say alpha and beta, we're talking about like attractive and comfort, right? Attractiveness and comfort, right? So you know when to, offer your girl some comfort and make her feel comfortable. You're a leader and have demonstrated leadership and discipline over time with yourself first, and then your wife and family. Okay. And then you've thrown out the scoreboard. The concept of the scoreboard, Ryan talks about in Dread, but basically the idea is that in the beginning, when you start out Dread, your wife is putting all the, like, think of a basketball court, and your wife is like doing layups on you and dunking on you and stuff. And she's got all these points on the board, and you're trying to play catch up, and you can't put a fucking point on the board to save your life. Right. And then you get to a point where you actually start putting points on the board, and you actually start scoring on her, and then you start dunking on her. And then you're like, you know what? This is stupid. Why are we keeping score anyway? And then you are dominant over most all areas of your life. Your sexual market value will continue to grow as you age if you get to stage 3. Right? Men, like a lot of guys in the space, we talk about it, like men age like fine wine, right? But women age like milk, right? That's true if you put work in. If you are actually like, if you're like my man Shreddy Eddie in Beer Club, we got this guy in Beer Club named Shreddy Eddie. We call him Shreddy Eddie because when he first got to Beer Club, he wasn't Shreddy Eddie. And now he's in his 60s. Guy's in his 60s, and he's in really fucking good shape. And he's lost a lot of weight. He's got really cut and stuff like that. I don't know how he's been after the New Year's. We're going to need a check-in from Shreddy Eddie, but that's because he's putting work in on himself, right? Even in his 60s, he's putting the work in on self-improvement, making himself a better person, being the best possible version of himself, right? If you do that, you will gain sexual market value into your 60s and 70s, right? Like women like older guys. You know what I mean? So as long as you're working on yourself, you're going to continue to improve your sexual market value. And as you do this, at this point, you need to revisit the questions at the beginning of the podcast, right? You need to look at, why am I with her? Why am I with this woman, right? Do I even like her? Right? You've gotten to a place where your sexual market value is so high, you're going to start asking yourself this, and it's good. You need to do this, right? Why am I with her? Do I even like her? Do I even want her? Right? Now, the problem is that women's primary agency is their sexuality, which means that their sexual market value declines over time, right? Because their youth and beauty is their prime fucking offering in the sexual marketplace, and as they get older, that tends to fade over time. Right now, what about J-Lo? Like, whatever. Like, okay, yeah, there's women out there that have aged very well. Salma Hayek looks great. Like there's women that have done that, but I guarantee your wife's probably not on Salma Hayek's level. All right. So most women, not all women, like a vast majority of women, their sexual market value is going to decline with age, right? But here's the thing. Salma Hayek, if you put Salma Hayek now versus Salma Hayek from Dusk Till Dawn together, and they're competing for the same men, she can't compete. The current version of her can't compete with her younger self. She can't. Okay. So her sexual market value is going to decline with age. So, knowing that, you gotta ask yourself, what value does she really add to my life other than sex? And is that congruent with my vision for a future? Right? And then how can I lead my wife to add value to my vision? Right? if you can answer those questions and she's still adding value to your life outside of the bedroom, even though by this point she's still fucking your brains out. If she's adding value outside of that kind of stuff, and you could properly lead her to add value as a part of your vision, right? She's a keeper, man. Like, there's no reason not to keep her around, you know. But if the answer is she's only good for sex, she doesn't do anything else around here, you might question being in that relationship. You know what I mean? Like, one of the things that if you read my book, which we'll get to here in a minute, man, somehow, I missed that. We'll play a commercial for that here in a second. But if you read my book, it says at the beginning that you're going to do this process. You might find that she's just not that great of a wife, right? But that's okay, because you're putting all this work in on yourself to reach a certain level of sexual market value that you're going to be able to find a much better woman, right? So no matter what, doing the work is a win-win for you, right? And then at the end of the book, it talks about how there's certain women that just aren't going to come on board with your program. You're going to find that, when you first got with her, she really wasn't adding a lot of value and you probably weren't thinking clearly. And now that you have a higher sexual market value, it's probably best to move on and find a better woman, right? So speaking of my book, yes, I have a new book out. It's called Get Her to Fuck You Again, a Red Pill Guide to Fix a Dead Bedroom. Let me play a commercial for that real quick, because I sort of skipped all the way into the material today.
Are you tired of the dead bedroom? Wondering what happened to the passion, the connection, and the spark? Well, here's your answer. Introducing Get Her to Fuck You Again, a red pill guide to fix a dead bedroom, now on Amazon. This isn't about manipulation or tricks. It's about real strategies that work. If your wife has stopped being intimate with you, it's not because the love is gone. It's because the attraction is gone. And that's fixable. This book will teach you the skills to lead your marriage, rebuild your confidence, and become the man she can't stop thinking about. 3 reasons to get this book. 1. It breaks the cycle. You'll learn how to stop doing the same things that are killing her attraction and start doing the things that reignite it. 2. It's practical and proven. With clear, actionable steps, you'll build yourself into the man you were always meant to be. 3. It works for men like you. Paul Bauer has helped hundreds of men just like you fix their dead bedrooms. And now, it's your turn. Don't let another day go by feeling frustrated and disconnected. Go to Amazon right now and buy Get Her to Fuck You Again. Read it, apply it, and watch your marriage transform. The connection isn't gone forever. You just need the roadmap to get it back. And this book is it.
Texas Desert Sailor. What's up, Waylon? Man, it's been a long time, brother. He says, Reveille, Reveille, Texas Desert Sailor. What's up, sir? Man, it's good seeing you. Good seeing you. Happy New Year to you, too. And then French Jesus on X. Hey, French Jesus, come on over to YouTube. He says, you got your place in the manosphere in short time. I did. Thank God, too. One of the things that I thank in my book, in the acknowledgments, is I thank Rollo Tomasi for inviting me to be on the Rule Zero panel, because that really opened a lot of doors for me in the manosphere. So I'm forever grateful to Rollo for doing that. To wrap up that section, though, so the difference between one of the things that he talks about in Good Dread Level 3 is basically there's a difference between temporary fear-driven desire, which is where you're at the beginning, which is what the original 12 steps of dread was about instilling fear in her and in order to get her to want to fuck you again, right? But that's fear out of survival, not genuine desire. And the thing is that when you become more of an attractive guy, Ryan talks about it in his book. I think Horns of Apathy talks about it, but basically when you become more of an attractive guy and you do this process, she starts looking at you as her best hypergamous option again. And when she sees you as her best hypergamous option, when she's fucking you, it's validation sex. Like she's doing it because it's validating to her to be able to fuck the guy who's her best hypergamous option. That's genuine desire. You understand? So you don't want to just do this out of fear just to get something out of her. You want to make this a part of who you are and become her best possible option again. The way you were at the beginning of the relationship. All right, man. It's going to be we'll try to rush through these last ones here. He talks about the role of frame. And we talk about, Rollo's iron rule, Tomasi number 1 is frame is everything, right? So man's internal worldview and the ability to live in his masculine frame, that's basically what we're talking about. Like, how do you envision yourself and the world around you? And do you let other people's opinions sway that vision, right? If you let other people's opinions sway that vision, you don't really have very strong frame, right? So frame is everything. It's got to be strong. It's got to be congruent. It's got to be authentic, right? Because women have an amazing ability to sniff out when you're not being real, if you're not being who you are, if you're putting on a facade. So it's got to be ingrained in your subconscious so that it's a part of who you are, so that you are congruent, right? And then frame shifts the power and dynamic in the power dynamic in the relationship, because once you have strong frame and you get to a place where your wife is entering your frame, now you're really setting the tone and leading in the relationship. She has respect for you now. She can relax more into her feminine, and everything tends to work out more smoothly. You understand? He talks about the importance of field reports, that's really Ryan's big thing. And in fact, his latest book that released in December is Praxeology Volume 3. It's all just various field reports. But field reports are important because the old habit was like overthinking and mentally masturbating on theory, which is what a lot of guys do, right? They read all the books and never implement them. And that's one of the things that I help guys with. I didn't even realize it until I was talking to one of my coaching clients last Saturday. Speaking of coaching, guys, you can book a free call with me by going to call.fixdeadbedrooms.com if you want help like implementing this type of stuff. But I was talking to my client on Saturday, and we're at week 6, which means that we're halfway through the program for him. And so I like to ask him, like, okay, where do you see things have improved and all that kind of stuff, and where can things get better? And one of the things that he noticed was that he's read all the books, he's studied all the stuff, he's read the field reports, like all that kind of stuff. He's listened to all the podcast episodes. He's been doing that for years, and he's not been able to move the needle. And that's what they're talking about with the overthinking and mental masturbating thing. Not to say, it sounds terrible, but that's what a lot of guys do. They study the material and they don't know how to implement it, right? And so this guy says, hiring you as a coach has allowed me to put this stuff into action, and I now have a better understanding of how to apply this information in certain circumstances, right? If that's you, get a coach, right? And you can talk to me for free if you go to call.fixdeadbedrooms.com, all right? So the importance of field reports, though, is you're taking action, right? You're actually taking the stuff that you're learning, you're applying it, and then you're coming back and evaluating on what works and what doesn't. And the way an effective field report, you're as descriptive as possible on all the actions that you're taking, right? And it allows you that Ryan talks about it to do what's called an OODA loop, right? Observe, orient, decide, act. So you basically observe your current situation, you orient yourself to what do you want, like which direction you want to go. You decide on an action to take to get there. Did that work or did it not work? If it didn't work, right? That's, after you act, now you've got to observe again. Did it work? Okay, now I got that. Did that work? Cool. We'll do more of that. If it didn't work, well, now I got to reorient myself, like try something else. You understand? All that stuff helps because if you write it out, you're basically documenting all this stuff. Documenting all this stuff allows you to see progress over time, right? It's a good reason to do this sort of thing. And it's also giving you sort of another action to take. You know, men do very well when we take action on things. So just the act of journaling out some of this stuff gives you an action to take. It's sort of, you're holding yourself accountable to do this, right? A lot of guys have a hard time with that, and that's why getting a coach is helpful, right? But you could do some of this stuff yourself if you're a motivated guy and you know how to implement this stuff. If you need help with it, there's no shame in that, okay? The next concept is the need for authentic desire. We talked about that a little bit, right? But women can detect inauthenticity, leading to temporary desire at best, right? Real attraction comes from sustained, congruent masculine behavior. She's got to see you as her best hypergamous option and be sexually attracted to you again, right? You can only do that by becoming more fuckable, by becoming more sexually attractive and making it a part of who you are. And like I said at the beginning, money is the beta side of hypergamy. So if you're looking at increasing your muscles, money, game, and frame, the money part is the beta side of hypergamy. So what makes you more sexually attractive is your muscles, game, and frame, right? And you've got to make those things a habit. You got to make those things a part of your new personality, okay? And you've got to be able to recognize and eliminate covert contracts in your behavior. And we've talked about this a lot too, but covert contracts is when you're trying to do something to get a response out of your wife, right? You've got to look at all the stuff is that you're doing it for you no matter what. She either gets on board or she doesn't. Because when she doesn't do what you think she should do, you're going to build up resentment. And then that resentment is actually going to come across as needy, unattractive behavior. You're going to come across as a butthurt little crybaby, and that's unattractive behavior. She's going to be able to sense that, right? So you got to let go of attachment to outcome and like, oh, did she respond to this? No? Okay, cool. I'll just put that in my field report. Yeah, I tried this. It didn't work out very well. Yeah, try something else next time, right? Be very indifferent to it. So you got to let go of those covert contracts. And then the end game is being the prize. You've got to become the prize. Guys don't just like, you hear online in the red pill space where men talk about how they're the prize. You're not inherently the prize of anything, dude. You've got to put work in to become the prize. We have a burden of performance as men, right? It's Breifeld's law. Women have to see you as adding value to their life, or they're not going to be with you. Right. So you have to be you got to be a valuable guy that they want around. Women don't need a man anymore. Right. But they want men, but they want a man that's worth having around. Right. So in order to be that guy, you've got to be an attractive guy that's worthy of women wanting him to be around. Right. You've got to become the prize. So high value man consistently, it says here, a high value man consistently chooses his wife, making her feel validated. So this is where like you're so high value and your wife is like putting enough value into your life that you're the one that's choosing her. Right. That's why when you get to the end of dread level 3, you need to ask like, what value does she have? Do I even like her or not? Right. If you're asking yourself these questions, why am I with her? Do I like her? Do I even want her? And the answers are yes for those. And what value does she really add other than sex? And she's adding value. Like, how can I lead my wife to add more, add to my vision, all that kind of stuff. And she's doing those things. Now you're choosing her. Yep. I'm going to choose to stay with you. When you get to that mental model, that mental frame, you're choosing her. And then she wins the game of hypergamy. Right. She wins the game of hypergamy because it says here that this is how you eventually unconsciously and passively dread so that your woman's greatest source of validation is realized, being selected by a high value man over and over again. Right. So you're now at the place where your sexual market value is so high. She sees you as her best hypergamous option, and then you evaluate, do I want to keep her or not? And then when you choose to keep her, she feels validated, and then she's going to love you more. You understand? That's how it all works. Authentic leadership and congruence creates a feedback loop of desire. right? It creates a feedback loop of desire. She's going to keep seeing you as her best possible option. And then that's going to create mutual fulfillment, because she's going to be banging your brains out. She's going to be adding value to your life. You're going to continue choosing her. She's going to love you for choosing her. It's a positive feedback loop. You understand? That's how you fix the marriage. That's how you fix the dead bedroom. It's a wonderful thing. Sounds terrible though. It sounds very manipulative, doesn't it? It doesn't, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing at the end of the day. You know, one of the things my coach, I have a coach myself. One of the things my coach talks about is like getting rid of your resistance to the word manipulation, right? And he says, manipulation, like a lot of people hate that word, but it's really your intent behind it. You know, if your intention is good, you know, like the rules go out the window. You know what I mean? And so at the end of the day, you're trying to fix a marriage, and everybody wants a healthy marriage at the end of the day. So this is how you do it. This is how you do it, using evolutionary psychology to your advantage. All right, guys, that's all I have. Hopefully it was eye-opening for you. Definitely, I didn't promote it well enough, but get the book, okay? Get Her to Fuck You Again. You cannot, if you do a search for it on Amazon, you're not going to be able to find it because it's such an edgy title that the algorithm won't allow it to show up. So if you go to books.comeonmanpod.com, that'll take you to my authors page. You can find the book there on my authors page. So definitely do that. Books.comeonmanpod.com. You can find Get Her to Fuck You Again. You can pre-order it now on Kindle, but otherwise the paperback and hardcover will be out this Friday. And then today I'm hoping to finish editing the last 3 chapters and get those submitted to Audible. And then once it's submitted to Audible, it takes 14 business days for them to approve it. So it should be available by the end of the month. But you guys, I think you guys are really going to love this book, especially if you're in a long-term committed relationship and you want to, you know, maybe the attraction's fading in your relationship, you want to turn things around. That's going to be the book for you. Okay. And you're going to be able to listen to Audible, which you can't do with Athol K's book because he never made an audio version of that. All right. Guys, that's all I have for this episode. Do like, subscribe, hit those notifications. I do have new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Oh, by the way, tune in on Friday. I'm going to be going over chapter 3 in AJ's book. Where's AJ's book? Here's AJ's book. I've got all these books here. I'm going to be going over chapter 3 in AJ's book, Psychology Emotion, which is also going to help you with this process too, the process of dread. So get AJ's book, but we're going to be talking about building emotional awareness, like having your own awareness of your own emotions, right? Because in order to control your emotions, you got to be aware of what's bubbling up, right? So tune into that on Friday. We're going to talk about that. Thanks for the super chat. I think it was CW sent a super chat. Thank you for that, man. Get on, follow me on social media. The links are in the description. Get on the email list.comeonmanpod.com. Get my free ebook, She's Made You Weak. Like I said, get my new book, Get Her to Fuck You Again. You can find my other 2 books that are available if you go to books.comeonmanpod.com as well. Guys, it's a new year. Start working on your fitness. Go to fit.comeonmanpod.com and get my basic diet fitness course. Guys, get in Beer Club. Beer Club's a good group of dudes. There's like over 50 guys in there. They're all swapping notes. They're doing field reports. A lot of the guys right now are back on the dating circuit, so they're all swapping notes about dating app stuff. If you guys are struggling with dating, get in the Beer Club. Those guys will help you out with that. And then if you're struggling with your marriage, you're in a dead bedroom situation, you want to start implementing dread, book a free call with me. Go to call.fixdeadbedrooms.com. That's all we got. We will see you guys on Friday. Have a happy new year.
This has been the Come On Man podcast. Now, go out and get it.